this on, she disappears right when I turn this thing on.
You got my cool screen. You got a full shot of the cool screen.
Yeah, I got a full start of the cool screen. I actually should have brought it up. Like I actually just finished building it took me a long time, about 6 months, but I finally built my commander deck. It's got like some really cool like images and stuff, and I've been trying to draw them for the last few days. So
Cool.
to some extent, it reminds me of how far I go, because Magic the Gathering has some world class artists, and I'm like, I'm not there yet, like not even close, but I'm okay with that. It's just like I do the drawing mostly for the fun, mostly.
Yeah.
Right. So, how you been?
Yeah. I like drawing for fun too, and I haven't done it in a while.
Huh. It's a shame. It's a shame this particular version of the show's wrapping up soon, because I would be like, oh, you should come back and draw with me at some point. But I don't know if we're gonna have time for that. So
yeah, I know. I have everything is in my basement too, and I have everything. Like I've been drawing my whole life. I was an art major in college, so I've got oil paints, I have acrylics, I have pastels, chalk, oil, all of it, and I never use it.
I'm sad. I'm sad I discovered this so late. I would have invited you to draw a long time ago. We would have had it. Yeah, we would have had longer than what we have today, but I would have happily have done it with you. Maybe when I do meet you on the road, maybe that's what we do.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Ice cream and drawing.
Ice cream and drawing. Yeah, go sketching. That's what I want to do this spring. I would like to make sure that I do that. I used to do that. Like, it's been a long time. Like in high school and college, I would be outside like sketching, because you would have to in college, like drawing classes and everything. So I want to do that again this spring. Like, make sure that I go to a park, take my sketchbook, and just sketch stuff. That was fun, but I just haven't had time in a really long time.
Wow. There's no time like the present here. I'll tell you what. Just for shits and giggles. This was my first published illustration.
Cool. What is it? It's like a monster?
A very angry glitter dragon. I couldn't figure out how to do glitter in black and white. I had to do it in black and white. Tough. Yeah, so it's like, how do I do glitter in black and white? Because if I made him like sparkle,
you have to do a lot with like a gradient to like fool people. One thing that's cool I see is like how people do glitter tattoos.
Yes.
Like that. I haven't figured out how to do that, but it's like it to convey that in like drawings. But I would think it could be the same principles.
And this was my most recent drawing, although this is just me just playing around.
That one's hard for me to see. Oh, there we go. Cool.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not what I would consider good, but I do have fun, and I think that's really the important thing. That's the absolute important thing.
Yeah.
Right. So, I've been seeing you. You've been like doing gymnastics. I've been seeing you do like all kinds of stuff physically to kick some butt. Like, do you actually compete?
No, we do. Like I coach at the gym. I just do CrossFit stuff. We have every year the global CrossFit community does the giant worldwide competition where it's just online. You just do it at your gym, and it's really fun. I do that. That's this week. That starts this 3 weeks. So it's not like you actually go to a competition. Basically, I go to the noon class at the gym. Someone judges me do the workout. We put it on the leaderboard, and then everyone. The only reason I do it at noon is because I'm the Friday night coach, so I have to run the heats on Friday night. So I have to make sure that everyone has a judge, and that everyone has a lane, and that everyone has everything's running on time. So everyone does it. About like, I don't know, 30 something people from my gym signed up, and we just compete like globally, and it's fun.
Yeah, I can tell you're also strong as hell. It's hard to do some of the stuff you were doing. It's like, dang, I gotta be on your good side at all times. So like literally make me a pretzel. Right.
It doesn't mean I know how to fight.
No. See, I would not make that bet against you. See, anything. Okay, so gymnasts and ballet, I would not mess with at all. All right, because you guys are strong. Doesn't matter if you know how to fight or not. One shot's all it takes, and that's
that and reaction speed and coordination and things like that. So I think, and also things like I did some stuff. Like I did some taekwondo when I was a kid, and then I did like 10 years ago, I did Krav Maga for a little while, so I've learned some stuff, and also I would be able to outrun a lot of people who would be chasing me.
Yeah, I see it. Like I said, I like Krav Maga. Okay, so yeah, I definitely not mess with you. Jeez, like that's one of the nastier ones. All right, so I mean, it's
Yeah.
up there with Thai. It's like I don't want to find out. I just don't want to find out.
Krav
So
Maga had said, if you're wearing high heels, to stomp on someone's foot. It had a
yeah,
lot of like groin kicks and stuff like that. It's
well,
just about
but
self-defense. It's not about honor or anything.
no, but
Right.
it's but if it's if it's a quote unquote real fight, there is no honor in a real fight.
No,
It's
no, you're just protecting yourself. That's
exactly. Or anyone thinks fighting is honorable in that sense. It's not. Like if you're being attacked, you do what you can to survive.
Mhm. This is
Like
to protect yourself against like a mugger.
yeah,
It's
right.
practical. That's why I like it. I don't care about the discipline and the art form of stuff like that. I just wanted to, feel better
Thro-
walking by myself at night in the middle of the city.
throat punches, knees to groin, eye gouging, headbutts to the
Mhm.
nose, like all the
Using a
nasty
knife.
stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, all the nasty stuff, right?
Mhm.
It all works. All of
Mhm.
it. Doesn't matter how big and strong the opponent is. Right spot. Right.
Yep.
You can make me sound like Mickey Mouse and not in the fun
There
way.
you're
So I
done.
mean,
Mhm.
yeah. So yeah. Yeah. So no, not gonna mess with you. All right. So that all said, I'm not here to talk about how tough you are, although that is an excellent. I'm happy and sad that I'm discovering some of this stuff about you. Like this is like probably the last conversation we're gonna have like this, right?
Uh-huh.
Because I figured out when I think I'm going. It's gonna probably be in August. Is
Mhm.
probably when I'm gonna go. I've set up my uh so this is one of the first steps. I got a computer yesterday, like for the road. Like that's what this is.
Mhm.
My road computer. Next month, I go to the American embassy and reapply for my American passport again, right? Which that we'll see how that process goes. I don't know how that process is going to go, right?
Mhm.
I'm up in Canada, so no one expects to apply for an American passport up in Canada. So it might go real fast. Then again, it might be real slow. I have no idea which way that's going to go.
Yeah.
Then I go get an American license in April or May. Then I get my van June. I'm hoping June, July, something
Mhm.
like that. Do my first trip in July in Vancouver, where I go into Vancouver. It's kind of like a test run, and I think I figured out. I figured out. I think a business model for this two different ways. I think I get to start playing with that next month,
Mhm.
right? So there's two ways I thought about doing this. One is travel magazines, that unique ability to travel to some unique spots and just like not as a tourist, but as someone that's actually going. You're taking me like, for example, that ice cream place on the train tracks. That
Mhm.
would be a cool like actual article to write about. Hey, really
Yeah.
cool spots and neat places, right? So that's one angle. The other angle is I do advertising. So I can go to like a lot of these small businesses I see on the road because most small businesses don't know how to advertise themselves,
Mhm.
right? So I'm like, hey, I can help you advertise. I'll have the equipment. You're right. I'll have the equipment to do it right then and there on the spot and build up a clientele base that way. So that's kind of like the initial idea and plan. Maybe book like really cool little spots. Maybe see if I can get people to come out to shows sometimes. But
Mhm.
like I said, that's something I'm still kind of planning
Yeah.
and thinking about. But I mean, that's kind of like how I feel this is going to take. It's going to take probably a little longer than I planned, but I don't think it's that much longer than I planned. And then once I get going, I'm going, and then I'll be like, "Hey, Lucy, I think I'll be there in like middle of September. Does that sound cool
Yeah.
to you?" Right?
Very cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
that's my
awesome.
plan.
Sounds like
That's
fun.
that's my, that's my plan for the second half of the year.
Yeah.
And you've done, and then like I said, you've already got me beat so far. You're releasing books, you're doing all kinds of cool things right now. So how's
Yeah.
it all
Lots
going
of
for
stuff
you?
this year. Good. I've just been crazy busy. Like the very beginning of the year has been kind of nuts. Like I had like it was like it's all sorts of things. It's work stuff, it's the gym, it's books, and it's just other things. So I have first thing I have is like in 2 weeks. I think it's the 28th. I think the very last day of the month. So like exactly 2 weeks. My first short story collection comes out.
Yeah.
It's this guy, Influence. And then so this one I don't think I brought up before, but my So back in the 90s, he was at the time like a analyst for the Department of Defense, and so one of his job was to look at like exports. So when people wanted to export technology, like businesses in the US wanted to export technology, my dad would look at it and evaluate it, like what can this be used for? Can this be used for, intelligence measures against us? Can this be used as a weapon? Can this be, what can people use this for? And so one thing that was very concerning to him was the approval of technology sales to China
Hmm.
after the Cold War was over. So that was one thing that he was then. So he came up with this book. Like he's had several, like many articles published, like a couple books, like his dissertation was published. So he started writing this like fiction novel about like the consequences, like projected into the future of what would happen if China does use these things that we sold them for, military purposes. So he started writing this book. So honestly, we've been working on this since like 2004, like just off and on, where I've helped him. He's asked me to help him rewrite it because he's not a fiction writer. He can write all day about weapons and things like that. He knows all about that. But like in terms of characters and plot and stuff like that. So I reworked it with him. I kind of looked at it for the first time in 2004, didn't know what I was doing at the time. I was just like, no, 2005, right when I was out of college, and then picked it up again maybe in like 2016 is when we actually started picking it up again when I had more time for it. And then in 2019, his friend published the actual book for us. It's called Nemesis Selection, but they did it like all wrong. They had like, it was all done by ourselves. Like they printed it on demand instead of going through Amazon. So it never really did anything. They didn't advertise it. So this year we're just like, we're getting this back out there. So I hired a company called Novel Publicity to reformat the entire thing, because I did the formatting myself, and it was like in InDesign, and it was clunky, and it was not ready to be uploaded to Amazon. For like Amazon, I don't think would accept this file like the way I made it. It probably didn't meet the specs. So they are reformatting the entire thing for us, which is basically done. And then next week I have a call with them so they can walk me through uploading it back to Amazon. Yesterday I made a website for the book. And after the whole thing is uploaded to Amazon, we've also retained this company to run ads. So we're actually like doing this right. And we've paid for marketing services from them. So at this point we're like, we've understood that at this point we should be paying for these things. Like we don't have the time or the expertise to do all this. So we're getting it to people who do, and we're just paying for this, and we're going to see how that works. So I've been really like swamped with that one as well. And then then there's these other projects in the works. So hopefully I'll basically have 2 new things out at the end of the month.
Congrats, first off.
Thanks.
Second, how do I put this? So I'd be curious what the marketing campaign would be for something like that. Because I talking to your dad, I bet you the one thing he did not anticipate with China is that they would use the money that the United States would give them in economic warfare. Because that's kind of what they did, right? So back in 2008, they did the U.S. Army did an economic war game, just a war game strictly speaking based on economics. And who would win an economic war? China was the winner. To their dismay, it was China won, with second place being gold and silver. Right?
Yeah, that's not really the scope of this book. Like
No.
that's not it at all. Like that's not. If it was, the book would be about 800 pages long. And
No. I get you, but I'm
yeah.
just saying, like, the factual thing I would just say is, I'd be interested to see like if you saw that coming. I was just like I'd be curious about that. But it sounds like in this book is just it's a
thriller.
It's a thriller. Oh, it's a thriller.
Yeah.
So I figured it might be at one point it might sound been like a sci-fi riff at one point. No,
absolutely not. Because I mean, think about how long ago this was originally written. So at this point, a lot of the stuff has actually come to pass.
Yeah.
So like you see a lot of these things like where it's like, okay, well, yeah, it was very prescient when my dad originally wrote it. It's too bad that we weren't able to do anything with it until now.
Yeah.
Because like, some of these things can still come to pass, but it is not sci-fi at all. it uses very real technology, and a lot of the things about it is that a lot of the technology isn't exactly cutting edge or sci-fi because it is stuff that the US was getting rid of basically, and
Yeah, they're
it's
junk.
sold to the Chinese, yeah, for dirt cheap. So like, no, it's more of like it's more of a thriller. There's a whole bunch of different things involved. There's like it starts out basically with a bunch of like people, government contractors getting murdered, and which is
All right.
also based on so there's some that's fictionalized, like these American government contractors getting murdered, but it also references very real British um, scientists who were murdered. It's seemed died under suspicious circumstances in like the 80s and 90s. So um, it's a lot of stuff in there is real. Like even the names of these people, you can look them up on Wikipedia and like and see which ones are real and which ones aren't.
So
Yeah, so like, yeah, it's cool, but yeah, no, not sci-fi at all. Just very
yeah,
much just
yeah.
like international thriller, apolitical as well. Like not this is not a political thing
Oh,
at
I
all.
I I I wouldn't expect this to be like
Yeah.
it's not really a political concept for two
Mm-mm.
reasons. Both parties did it first off, so why bother? And second,
Yeah.
that's not what it's about. Like it's about really like what happens if you get rid of your for all intents and purposes your junk.
It's
And
about greed.
yeah,
It's about greed, and it's about people in some sort of power, whether it's in government or it's in in industry, who are very short-sighted and willing to basically sell a bunch of people in their own country under the bus for their own profit.
yeah.
That's really what it's about.
And that's the one thing I will say is it's a very I hate to say this, it's very American in some ways, right? Very, very American. So it's like, yeah, it figures. I'm sure your father needed a drink as things came to pass sometimes. Like, I was right. Ah, fuck. Right. So
Yeah, we're pretty excited about getting it out there. It's pretty difficult to explain, and it's not it's not my genre. Like I don't have like the understanding so much of like the really dense like technical military stuff, which he does. That's what he's a professor now and he teaches that stuff. So like his stuff, I was like, okay, so this is kind of minimal. I'm gonna let him go. Like this description of the submarine, like I'll make it so it's not in passive voice at some places, but a lot of those sections are very much unchanged. And then I really added like a lot of like the character development and the action scenes and things like that.
you create a story structure because again,
Yeah,
like
he
you
had
said,
a basic story, he had a character,
yeah.
but it was I would say a lot of the action was kind of described in retrospect instead of actually showing it. It was a more telling than showing,
Yep.
and the characters were not necessarily as developed or anything. And some of these scenes, like I thought, like could have been way more fleshed out to really build the tension and everything. That you didn't really feel a lot of the tension. You didn't feel that the main character was ever in danger in the original book. So so that's one thing that I did to change it, to make it just so you're more invested in the actual story of these people, not just like not
But
just
yeah,
reading it for like, oh, I'm a weapons nut, like I want to read about the the lasers and stuff like that. So it's
but
cool though. It's really cool. I'm happy with the final product, and I'm really glad that we've you know outsourced it to the right people to help
yeah.
us with it.
So no, well, at least like I said, I will applaud you at least for actually using marketing. It's one of the things like me trying to establish like what I've been doing. It's
Mhm.
like you writers need advertising more than I think a lot of them realize, and they just won't do it. A lot of them.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like, I mean, I think I'm at an advantage for this because I do it for a living. So like,
Yes.
you know, and I think when you are ingrained in this, you really understand your own, and you work with people who are specialists in certain things, you really understand your own limitations. So like, I can write Facebook ads all day. I can like I know how to write these things. I've written so many of them. I know what works and what doesn't. I know how to iteratively write copy. I know what, like, I'm on this stuff. I read the trade publications. I know the types of ad units that they're really pushing and what works, but I also know that I do not know how to build audiences. I don't know how to do the pixels. I don't know how to use Facebook ads manager. I can kind of do it, but I can't do it in any way that's going to be really effective because I work with someone who knows everything about it. And I have worked with teams of people who know everything about it. So I know all there is to know. And I know that what there is up here and mine is here. That's how much I know compared to what there is to know. So I would rather hire someone to do it effectively than waste my time on it.
Well, yeah, no, because I mean, like I said, budget, I mean, plays a role in that too. But the truth of the matter is, like, whatever kind of advertising you decide to do and wherever you feel your audience will best be served, right? That's the other thing too, whether it's a Facebook ad, Amazon ad, a LinkedIn ad, a video, whatever you choose to do, right? You got to realize, like, okay, I'm going after a certain audience. How do I think this is going to work, right? And do I have the time to learn all that? You probably don't.
Yeah, because it also evolves. It changes constantly. Facebook is constantly shifting how they do things. So you have to stay on it. Not only do you have time to learn, do you have the time to make all these things? Do you have the time to sit there because you want to adjust these things on almost like a daily basis to see what's working and what's not? Like I don't have time for it. I'm going to be frustrated. And one of the reasons I don't have time for it is because I'm working all the time. So I'm working all the time. That gives me more money to invest in this stuff. So that's understanding like when to outsource, which I'm like, all right, this is going to be an investment. And we'll see how it pans out and because if it works, if I hire the right people, I'll make my money back.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Are you making money back, or at the very least you'll learn like maybe they're in the wrong, again, I'm not saying this is the case to work out. Maybe where you're advertising it will be the wrong space. Like that's the other thing too. It could be the wrong space. It could be the wrong target, whereas maybe, and so maybe the next time you do this, like, okay, maybe I won't do Facebook, maybe I'll focus more on Amazon, or I'll focus more.
But see, that's the thing is that I know enough to know that you focus on Facebook ads. You know that focus on whatever product you have, be it books or consumer packaged goods or anything like that. Facebook is the best platform to run ads on. Now that could change if Facebook continues to destroy itself and and fire all its people. But as of right now, Facebook, even for products that are being sold on Amazon, Facebook drives more sales than Amazon ads.
Interesting.
It's it is all of them. So when they told me that, so when I talked to this company that we hired, and they're like, and they said the same thing, I was like, I know, I've heard that from everyone that I've talked to, and I've seen that firsthand from working really closely on products that sell on Amazon, but it's a bit more effective to advertise on Facebook. It's just across the board. Facebook has the best advertising platform. So when people say that Facebook ads don't work, it just means that they failed. And that they did bad ads and they don't know what they're doing. But Facebook ads work across the board for every single product.
Yeah, it's sometimes it's the right ad too. Like I said, I've seen Facebook ads that make me question if they know what they're doing. And
Absolutely.
I've seen good ad. I have seen the odd good ad here and there as well. I just look at it and go, okay, that works. I think I get the message at least.
The most important thing with Facebook ads is the targeting, because there are some ads that put absolutely no effort into it, but it shows me something cool that I want. I don't even look at the copy, especially if it's clothing or something. I'm like, that's cool. They know that I like that I like, and I'll click on it and I won't even read it. And so like the most important thing is to make sure that they're showing it to the right people.
Yes. Well, and that's why the algorithms are such a sneaky little thing on Facebook, right? The only thing is I personally hate Facebook. This is why I personally hate it. I got a warning because I used the word cracker, right? As in Ritz crackers.
Yeah.
And they thought it was a racial slur.
Yeah, they're complete idiots. Like I've had things flagged before that I've done for so I don't manage the personal, I don't have my personal account tied to my work account that I manage anymore, because I got restrictions placed on my personal account for things that we had posted to the work account, and they were seriously pictures of vitamins with tinsel bats for Halloween. And Facebook was so dumb that it thought that we were selling animals, that we were like selling bats. There was another one of vitamins with butterflies in the background, and I thought we were selling butterflies. And which is illegal. You can't sell animals on Facebook. I'm like, we're not. It's an ad for it's an organic post for a supplement. It's not even an ad. Like, and it flagged it, and it flagged my personal account. I was like, I'm done. I can't have this on my account. This is so profoundly stupid.
Well, like this is why I think like I think, okay, so I don't know which one you think is a bigger dumpster fire in Twitter or Facebook at this moment in time, but this is why I kind of think, like, again, I'm quietly looking for some other form of social media. Right now, I know Facebook and Twitter are
Mhm.
necessary, but because of all the weird stuff, right, on both, if something better came along, I'd be there tomorrow. Like,
So I prefer Instagram, but
eh,
Instagram is difficult to grow your account on now. It used to be easy, but it's very difficult now.
yeah.
Facebook, um, Facebook is probably the place I get like the most engagement because it's where most people see my posts, and it does have that reciprocal nature of it. So, but I've never used Twitter. I just hate like, and I mean, I'm talking like I thought Twitter was just, I don't care how it's run. I don't care what's going on behind the scenes. All I was seeing was in front of me, and it was awful. I just hated it. I hate the way people aren't meant to communicate like that. Everything gets lost. All it is fighting and name calling. So like whatever was going on for how it was managed, don't care. I just saw it and like I got turned off by it back in 2012. So like
Okay, fair enough.
I haven't used it. It was a huge inspiration the way people were treating each other as to my Outrage Level 10 book. And so I've been turned off of Twitter. I have not been active on it for a decade. And the one that I tried to use TikTok, and I cannot stand TikTok. It's I mean, it's
Tik
how morons communicate. It's the dumbest type of communication. It's worse than Twitter.
So okay, so this is I'm gonna actually starting to play with TikTok a little bit.
Mhm.
It's dumb. Like and then I'm gonna say it. It's dumb because it's not even about your content. That's the thing I've realized about TikTok. It has nothing to do with your content. It's everything to do with the sounds. Like it's
Mhm.
designed to, it seems designed to destroy attention spans. Is what it's designed to do. And it's like, wow. It's like, okay. Now, some people I've seen have done great success there, right?
Mhm.
But I look at it and I go, yeah, no, I'm not sure it's gonna be for me. I'm still trying it. I'm gonna be trying some experiments and stuff like that. I do video stuff there. I do
Mhm.
lots of video kind of content. So it's like so where I have seen my most success is in this order. Um Facebook and Twitter, it's about even. Because again, I do media where Twitter's big advantage is if you want to find out what's going on in the world, like
Mhm.
minute by minute,
Yeah.
Twitter far and away is the best place to go do
Oh,
that.
absolutely. Like I've looked at stuff like that for when there has been something going on. Like I
Yeah.
wanted to find out like things like when there were those major protests in 2020. That was
Yep.
the last time I remember doing it, is that they were when they were coming into my neighborhood, and I was just trying to figure out where exactly they would be. That was good to know because people were damaging stuff. They were damaging property.
Yeah.
So that to me was like the last time I found Twitter useful.
You
Parade routes, things like that. Like that's what I'll use,
well,
and
it,
I'll use it.
yeah, it's cool because like even now, like doesn't matter what world events going on right now.
Mhm,
If you decided to look it up on Twitter, you will literally get minute by
mhm.
minute updates in a way you cannot get
Yes.
any other. So if you're in the media at all, you
Mhm.
must be on Twitter. Like I hate
Oh,
to
yeah.
tell that to people, but it's like you must.
Mhm.
I I realize because I do this podcast, I'm kind of on the media, so it's like, oh, I probably should be there.
Yeah, and it can tell you what, like, the general sentiment is of, like, of, what's going on, so you can kinda gauge
Well, what
people's
I like
reaction.
about it is you can actually cut through biases, but whether
Mhm,
like on media completely because you have the ability again, especially if it's a wide like event. I'll give you an example: the trucker protests in Canada,
mhm.
right? And you talk to certain Canadians, Canadians will tell you it was like a tyrannical thing. Now, if you watched it on Twitter, right, you got to see people protesting. You saw like a very typical Canadian things. There was a hot tub in the street. There was bouncy castles. There was like if you look at like if you looked at it from now, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to say it was all sunshine and rainbows either,
Yeah.
but you had a minute by minute update that didn't require any kind of media reporting or
Mhm.
bias. Like you could avoid all of it, and you
You
could
could
literally
just see
watch.
it
You could just
as it
see it
happens.
as
Mhm.
it happens. That is something I don't like. Like the only other platform, and you want to talk about real dumpster fires, Reddit is the only other. Hey, John, what's up? So, right? So The
Mhm.
only other platform that does that, and I hate to say it because it sucks, like it's a true dumpster fire. The dumpster fire of social media is Reddit. Reddit's the
Mhm.
only other place you can do that at. But you can't do it on Facebook. Can't do it in there. So the other
Yeah.
place, the
Yeah,
other,
my boyfriend uses it a lot just to find out stuff that's going on in the neighborhood, like a
yeah,
subreddit for our neighborhood, and you get like you get like a good honest,
yeah, no, like
understanding of
that,
what's going on.
like that's where like Reddit is the second best. Like Twitter is actually theoretically better, although I imagine for
Mhm.
that, what you're talking about the subreddits for that,
Mhm.
probably subreddit is better for those kind of things. But
Yeah.
yeah, for big events, like for current events, like the UFO stuff, you can watch it minute by minute on Twitter,
Yeah.
right? Right, which you can't do that anywhere else. That's where it's
Mm-mm.
good. Um,
And
the
that's
other,
different because that's being passive. I think the other thing that people try to do is when they try to when like to participate in the conversation. Like that's what I've used Twitter for like what you're talking about before, but I'm not actively participating. And that's what I
yeah.
have people doing is that like I'm just it's not that's not for me. Like, you know.
Well, no, no, I think no, no. Here, the thing about Twitter, and this is something I realized, like it got me a few times, and I realized, no, no,
Mhm.
no, it's trying to make me fight people. Like
Yeah.
that's like
It
that, like
is.
it legitimately is trying to make me fight people.
Mhm.
All right. And they'll literally put stuff up there that they like the algorithms have figured out kind of a little bit of my personality. It's like, okay, you're gonna hate this. So we're gonna see if we can get you to fight.
Yeah.
Right. That is now Facebook does do that a little bit too, but not
Facebook,
that.
they both do it because outrage content gets the most responses. So
Yes.
when you have these like emotional, like negative emotional responses, and they've both
Yeah.
done this for a long time and they both do it a lot, is because that's what keeps people on the platform. That gets the
Yeah.
most shares, that sends all the data to Facebook and Twitter of like, this is what gets people going. This is what gets people
Yeah.
staying on here and looking at the ads that we're showing them. So all that stuff is constantly elevated in your feeds. Facebook has rolled it back a little bit because they've been under so much scrutiny. But yeah, it's been how they've
Yeah.
made their money.
Yeah. So I mean that's the thing. So the other platform I use, and I think it's a little underused by a lot of people. But again, it depends on who your target. This one's from a little bit more about targets. LinkedIn.
Yeah, yeah. I think LinkedIn is one of the is probably the sleaziest of the social media platforms. It's also completely unsecure. Information gets scraped off of there constantly and sold to scumbags. So I try to stay away from it. I don't like.
Yeah.
I'm just constantly getting sent spam messages on there. So I don't like LinkedIn. I think I can see why it works for some people.
Yeah,
But
again, it's about targeting, right? Like
yeah.
that one's like it's you're going after a very specific audience that
Mhm.
still by and large reads. Like it's a different audience.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
right, right. So, but again, I mean, in terms of information getting scraped at the barrel, I mean, we got TikTok. TikTok's probably the worst for that right
I
now.
know.
So, it's kind of like I mean, like, what do you do? Like, what do you do here? Like, you're gonna put yourself
Mhm.
out there. These companies are trying to plunder your data like it's
Yeah.
nobody's business, and
See,
it's like,
the the thing that I think a lot for authors in particular is and that's the thing that sucks about LinkedIn is LinkedIn, you do have to have, if you're ever in a need for a job, LinkedIn has by far the best job application process. And
yes,
so, and so like if you do need a job, you are forced to have a robust LinkedIn profile. That's the thing that's
yes,
you can be as evasive as you want on everything else, and you actually have to be because of like character limits and your bios and things like that. So LinkedIn is the one that like is you really that is so useful at certain times in your life. But in general, like for like authors and stuff, for people who are like not social media content creators, I honestly think people would be better served by just leveraging people who are. So you can have a pretty minimal, and you see this a lot with traditionally published authors, where like Paul Trombley is a good example on linked or sorry Instagram. He just puts stuff out there about his life, and
yeah,
about his books and about like, and it's not. there's not a lot of effort that goes into Paul Tremblay's Instagram account. This is just how a regular person who's not really trying to sell you anything does their Instagram. He doesn't make reels, which like take forever. He doesn't do trends. He just puts up this, and it's another reason for for fans of his. It's how fans of his can stay on top of what he's doing next, and people who are maybe on the fence would be like, I like this guy. He's cool. I like what he thinks about things. And I think a lot of authors go so hard in organic social media and growing them and basically turning themselves into content creators, which
Yeah.
some of them are really good at. I'm not a content creator. I'm a writer. So for I think it's more about partnering with people who are good content creators and letting them do the social media, because that's how books blow up. If like, here's another good example from this is Daniel Volpe.
Yeah.
He extreme horror author, splatterpunk author. He is barely on social media. Like, he'll put stuff up and it's not, I don't think he would tell you that he's great at social media. He's just, he just puts up stuff and it's enough. But how he has been successful is other people talking about him, which is
Yeah.
always going to be more successful than you talking about yourself. So there's a lot of authors who will put so much effort into talking about themselves, but it's never going to do what stuff like Daniel Volpe's has done, because other people have talked about him, people that are good on social media and know how to get these views. So I always think that that's such like an untapped thing, especially with how in the world outside of writing and books, influencer marketing has been so big for so long and so effective at this point, but it's almost like it's an untapped resource in this area in particular,
Well, okay, so there's two parts to it, because I'm one of those people. I think you probably would accuse of cultivating and becoming a content creator by.
But you are a content creator. You have a podcast.
No, I am. No,
You
absolutely. I don't hold that back. This is what I've learned doing like stuff like this. This is the thing. There's phases to the game. How do I put this, right? Some authors get have the ability, because of just how their sales, their name, their range. Like someone like Stephen King, for example.
Yeah.
They have the ability to just, people will talk about them no matter what. Now, some people really abuse that game. See J.K. Rowling, right? They know how to really play that game very, very well. So that's one aspect of it. But honestly, and this is something when I tell people, like when I work with like people trying to market their books and stuff like that, I said there's two ways to go about it. The project at hand, which you need to do at least initially, but the real long-term marketing is you.
Yeah.
Right. And the thing about that is, so when you're starting, you're not going to get people to talk about you right away. But what you can do is, okay, who do you want to be on this platform? Like that's like these platforms. Who do you want to be? Because if that is who people are going to see you as initially, and as you keep writing, like writing great books is overall the best marketing. But the long thing is building up who you are and what you talk about on there, and it can seem like perfectly normal stuff. I want that. I would rather have a genuine person that I'm talking to. Why do you think I do the podcast like this?
Yeah.
Right? I don't do it like this because I could ask you a whole bunch of questions and then both of us would go to sleep.
Yeah.
Right. But the reality is, see, Lucy Leitner is an interesting person. More interesting each and every time I talk to her. Right? Just some of the things you do. Now, if you built your social media, quote unquote, with the things you do, because the things you're really interested in, you're going to draw a certain audience eventually to you. But but for everybody, that takes, now again, the time, it's a time sink, because you got to build that. You have to build that game. This podcast has organically grown almost completely. I haven't actually done a lot of like Facebook ads, things like that. It hasn't been an organic cycle. Some weeks I get hundreds of people a week listening to this show. Some weeks it's thousands, right? It has hit that wonderful, like, that's pure organic me being me, right? and people going, "Hey, he's a nice guy. He's a big mouth. He's got a little crazy, right?" But I'm genuinely me, and the more
Mhm.
genuine I become, it's interesting to watch how that filters people out and in.
Yep.
And the other thing I've learned too is this is the thing that gets weird. I have been able to keep people that disagree with me as much as the people who've agreed with me, and the reason I think that is the case is I'm honest about it. I'm not trying to
Mhm.
hide anything or be anything but who I am. And I think that's the real long game for any author because ultimately,
Completely.
for all your projects, you're the product. And
Mhm.
right, so
Yep.
right, so you have to think about this in two parts. Yes, you got two projects right now. Those are the two things you care about the most right now, and you're going to probably be advertising them if I'm imagining your marketing company for your dad's book that you've helped with. It's probably 3 it's probably a 2 or 3 month campaign, maybe a
Yeah,
little.
I think so for now. Mhm.
Yeah, 2 or 3 month campaign. Your current short story collection is also going to probably, on some level, a 2 to 3 month campaign.
Mhm.
But you know who's constantly? What's the other constant thing? Then when you get to your next book, you,
Yep.
right? So I think what happens what eventually happens is like a guy like me is looking at the fact that I don't necessarily want to do what I've been doing always. I like my motivational stuff,
Mhm.
right? I'll probably really do that till the umpteenth day of the time. But the real push, the real marketing is me,
Mhm.
right? That's it. And eventually it gets to the point where people talk about me. Regular people know who I am.
Mhm.
Now I gotta take it to like, what can I do to get people to talk about me that doesn't feel like I'm deliberately pushing what's the word I'm looking for? It's early in the morning for me here, so
Mhm.
I'm trying. My brain hasn't coalesced. I'm not trying to polarize on
Yeah.
purpose. That's the difference. I'm not trying to
Mhm.
polarize on purpose. I'm not afraid to polarize if I truly stand for something, but I'd rather it be something real. Because the
Mhm.
moment I try to polarize for the sake of polarizing, I kill my credibility and then I'm done.
Yeah, and a lot of people I see do that because they found it's a way to get engagement on their social media. That's why they
Yeah.
do it. And they'll have, like, completely it's we're kind of irrelevant issues. It's things that don't matter in the
Yeah.
long run, and it's just putting up an opinion, and you see it a lot, like, especially because I have all, like, these horror authors on this thing, putting
Yep.
up opinions, aggressive opinions on new horror movies and books. Like, no one asked you. No
Yeah.
one cares. Like, see, like, if you love something, like, that's when, like, if I really like something, I'm gonna tell people about it. If I didn't like something, why would I what's the point? Like,
Yeah.
unless someone asks, it's a conversation, like, then yeah, I'll bring it up, but, like, I'm not I'm not in the habit, like that's why I put up that Sandman Slim book that we were talking about
Yes.
in the stories. I loved it. I love this genre of, like, this, like, kinda hard-boiled, aggressive, gritty, like, supernatural noir stuff. Because there's another author named Charlie Houston who did something similar with, like, a vampire private
No,
eye.
Charlie Huston, right?
Yeah,
Hust. Yeah,
STON, yes. Loved
Yeah.
it. The Joe Pitt case books, that's what
You
I've read everything that he's written, and, like,
you've
and
read
then
his comics?
I haven't read, no, I haven't read those.
Then
I've
you
read
gotta read
all
his
the other
comics.
books.
You
Yeah.
no, no. He did a comic you would enjoy. Just you would seriously enjoy.
Mhm.
You need to get the old and they're in trades, the
Okay.
old Hellblazer run.
Hellblazer, okay. Let
A
me write it.
Hellblazer, right? Different. Okay, so every big comic creator or writer has
Mhm.
done this series. Neil Gaiman's done it.
Oh,
Uh,
cool.
Grant Morrison's done it. Warren Ellis has done it. Garth Ennis has done it. Like this
Oh,
is like a
wow.
who? No. And Charlie Huston has done it too, right?
Wow.
So yeah, it's one of like this is one of the original quote unquote Vertigo books. So your mileage will vary depending on who's doing it, but it is totally supernatural noir. John Constantine
Cool.
is there you go, a book recommendation from me to you that you
Perfect.
will love.
That sounds like a
Um,
whole family too, especially since you put Warren Ellis in there. If it's got Warren Ellis, Charlie Houston, like that's
I see now. I kind of wish you were here. I had to make a decision. I'm purging books because again, I'm going on the road. So
Yeah.
I'm narrowing it down to the stuff I really thoroughly enjoy. I have some Warren Ellis books I'm actually getting rid of. I think you would typically, and I have to make some hard choices. I have to make some hard ones. This was one of them. Warren Ellis, I have his Crooked Little Vein novel. I don't know if you ever read that or
I
not.
haven't read any of it. No, I've never read him.
Oh, okay. So
I just saw him with Nick Cave.
yeah, no, he's done that. He is Warren. Personally, you probably would have some issues with him because some of the things he's done in recent years, or has come out of that in recent years. But as a prolific author of comics, he's the most prolific author since the '90s. It's like
Wow.
in the '90s. Garth Ennis is probably secretly one of the best war story comic book people you'll ever read. The most famous thing you probably know him for is The Boys. The TV show The Boys is based on his comics. So
okay. My parents really liked it. I haven't watched it.
It's a disturbing little take on superheroes. It's disturbing, right? But Garth did that in the early 2000s, and so I got to read it then. It's like it's cool to see all the stuff I really like come out. But going what we're talking about with social media, just real quick, great. Like what it is it's genuine and it's real. People want okay. I don't think people mind if you're selling them something, as long as there's a certain authenticity to like you believe in it and you like this book or you love this movie and that people want to hear that stuff. Like people want to hear, people want to engage. Right now, I actually got a contract with a publisher. I'm ghostwriting their blog. Right.
Cool.
Yeah, and it's a science fiction blog. So I'm putting science fiction questions up and I'm letting the audience kind of dictate some things. So today when we're done, I'm writing a blog about alien invasions, which in science fiction, it's almost like turning your brain off for the most part, right? Because it's a very straightforward concept. The bad guys roll into town, kick everybody's ass, and the good guys roll in and go, let's fight.
Humans have to put aside their differences and unite. And,
and there's some clever stories. There's some clever versions of this.
Yeah.
Like there's some really clever ones out there. But let's be honest, it's the equivalent. It's a trope, and it's science fiction kind of. And the reason why I'm writing this for this blog right now is because, again, we're seeing, we're repeating 1948 right now, right, in the world with all these unidentified flying objects and stuff like that. So I'm like, might as well just capitalize on it while we're here, right? Right? Do the fun stuff, like not talk about the politics of this and it's a distraction for this or it's a weather, but like I'm like, wow, they repeat 19. I like something like one of the things we've talked about in the past. I kind of feel like I have lived through in the last 4 years, the last 6 decades, all these things that have come before, I would hit at the same point in time. And I'm thinking, I want to get off this ride, man. I'm tired of seeing what's the next year we're going to repeat?
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
What's the next year we're going to repeat? 1948, 1976, 1935. It's please stop. Just can I want to go into. I don't know what the future looks like, but I kind of want to see it now. I'm just tired of that. I've seen this before. Can I see something new? I want to.
Let's learn from this. Why didn't we learn from this before?
Yeah. You know what I figured out. I figured this out. I figured out how patterns change, and this is maybe one. This was what I think what the world is today, and I just figured this was my epiphany. I think of the last few months. It takes self-awareness to change. Most people have to have to be willing to look for the self-awareness, and everything on this planet, it seems, in terms of the world, I'm using the quotation marks on the world, wants to distract you from finding out what that is.
Yeah, I think a lot of issues are caused by lack of self-awareness.
Yes.
To your own, I guess, development and future, and to the people around you. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I'm reading this interesting book now by Chuck Klosterman. Have you heard the What If We're Wrong? The one from 2016?
I haven't read that one. The last one I read from him was the Cocoa Puff one. I can't remember.
Oh, that's been a while. That was an old one.
That's an old one. Yeah, no, I'm dabbling with different when I read the like that kind of nonfiction, I kind of go all over. I don't
Yeah.
have like the attention span for one particular author because
Yeah.
it's like I'll read him, then I'll read someone like Rob Bell, then I'll read somebody completely off on another front, and just um because I love the ideas, but again, what I have noticed when I started reading them deeper and deeper and deeper, sometimes they play with different ideas, but again, sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's the
It's
same
just
idea,
same
kind.
stuff.
Yeah,
Well, what's
yeah,
interesting about this one is that this isn't so much. I mean, it is obviously it has a lot of his pop culture stuff in it, but like, it's the whole idea about it is thinking about the present like we think about the past, and kind of understanding where we are at this moment, and that kind of his thesis is that like we as humans we're always, and this is something I've noticed too. Is that we always think that we're always too certain, and we always seem to think that we're at the end of, like, that that this is it, that this is like the that we're, no matter what era, it seems like it's always like, okay, this is the apex of this, and that there's really nothing left to learn, and that like, yes, things will change, but it's going to be the same as we always thought, and like, that the it's weird. It's hard to describe, but it's kind of how, the certainty that people have, and like things like that the world was flat, and then that the earth that the sun revolved around the earth, and the earth was the center of the solar system, and how everything is formed with this idea, and then what happens if this idea like turns out to be wrong. And you can kind of see it with a lot of things happening over the last several years, with like responses to things and how sure people are. You saw it with like nutrition recommendations a lot, like, say, like, you had the idea that dietary fat was what was causing heart attacks, and that turned out to be obviously totally wrong. But then you see it now, because I'm so ingrained in this like wellness community, is that those people are like, that was wrong, and then now they're so, but everyone else is preaching this other, like, almost opposite ideology, and they're so sure that they're right. And like, well, what didn't you learn, that like, that everything that we were told about nutrition recommendations from the government, yes, well, not everything, but a lot of it is wrong. So what makes you so sure that you're right now? What happens in another 30 years? It's just something that I've been noticing a lot in that little microcosm. And then Klosterman talks about it kind of like, and right now I'm only like 100 pages in. He's talked about rock music and things like that. So like,
no,
I don't
no,
know.
no, no, yeah, no. It was what he does. It is totally what he
Mhm,
does. So I have 10 rules of success. I don't know if I've told you my ninth rule. It's what the pandemic taught me.
mhm.
Is be detached from all outcomes.
Yes, we have talked
Yeah,
about
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, right. And that's what that like what you're talking about there. That's why.
Yeah, you just follow the truth and
Yeah.
to the best of your ability, and don't get too attached, and let this certain thing be your defining, belief.
Yeah, because we have it like I think here's the thing. I think me and you are approximately the same age, right?
Mhm,
Give or take. So we have come to this realization that we've been fed a lot of horseshit.
mhm.
Like growing up, we've been fed a lot. And so at this point, if the government told me that the sky was blue, I'd be looking outside. And I'd be
Yes.
a little worried. I would be a little worried if they were right. I would be a little
Mhm,
worried. There's would be a little part of me that thinks I'm missing something. I would go with it, but I'd be kind of like, where we going? Right. Because
y
like, at this point, that's how little trust I have. And it doesn't really matter what party it is. It's not,
mhm,
it's a universal thing
mhm,
for me because everything I have seen in my experience as of right now has told me that the truth and government don't go hand in hand. Now, one
not
day,
just government, institutions.
yeah,
Anything that wants to sell you something or keep you in line.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So, what I've learned is anything advertised as this will help you, I take a step back. It just
Mhm,
that is my natural reaction at this point because I have seen too many times that that will bite me in the ass later if I trust it wholeheartedly.
mhm,
Now, here's the thing. That is today. I think I think there has been. I think if in order to if this civilization is to survive in some form or fashion as we know it, right? We're going to have to go back to some sort of universal consensuses, whatever
Mhm.
those might be. But we're going to have to head back towards that again at some point. And when we do, this idea that I have will no longer work, right?
Mhm.
Now, what I'm aware of is, right, at let's say it's 61 that we get to that point when I'm 61 years old.
Mhm.
That's going to be a lot harder to undo,
Yeah.
right, at the point in my
Well, when
life.
you think about it, that's why religion has been around for so long, and why, everyone traveled in these groups because everyone fundamentally bought into the same principles. And
Yeah,
that's how people were able to exist in these societies. And then you think about it again, but you think about like all the big wars that have happened when you had things like this, where you had like, in crusades, and like this is no people so sure of their way of life that they
yeah,
can't tolerate anything else. But you had pretty strict adherence almost
yeah.
to certain to these certain ways of living, and now there's just so many ideas and everyone has their own way of life that doesn't exist anymore, which in many ways is a good thing because you can't mobilize that many people
Well, well,
to
well,
real
well.
damage.
The good thing about that is it's cool that the knowledge base is there. But when
Mhm.
but here's the thing. What happens if there's a lack of a universal consensus on some things? What tends to happen is people tribalize. One of the
Yep.
reasons Twitter and Facebook are so successful is because people have tribalized.
Hmm.
I'm just going to keep politics like for just a second here. Like I have seen very progressive pens go and put memes up about how conservatives are the great enemy, right?
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, I've seen go woke, go broke, right?
Hmm.
Which gets a little chuckle from me. I'm not going to lie. But that all said, um, but the idea is the same. These are ideological warfare kind of things because again, there isn't a consensus of any kind. Now, if
Yeah.
there's a consensus, right, what can happen is you can still have these different ideas, but there would be compromises,
Hmm.
right? There would be a lot more prone to listen, right? Let's just say you got this really cool. We're going to keep this in nutrition. Let's say you come up with a cool way to deal with ADHD using saturated fat,
Hmm.
right? It's really cool. It's unique, but there's a consensus that, for example, that maybe the saturated fat you're using causes something. We'll make this like a fun little example.
Hmm.
But your stuff actually works. You can prove it works. So they'll take the consensus, they'd look it up, they would compare, contrast. In that kind of world, there'd be some kind of compromise on how it's used, how it's there.
Yes, only for people with ADHD.
Yeah,
Not for
exactly.
people self-medicating, or for people who think that, oh, if I don't have ADHD, but I'll get hyper focused if I take supplemental saturated fat. I think that's like, speaking of nutrition, that's the issue that you have, is you have people,
Oh yeah,
who don't think that, who don't think that there's an endpoint, who think that their abilities for health are limitless.
yeah, there are limitations. I remember I did nootropic. I did nootropic. It was
Mhm.
which one was it? It wasn't one of the B's. It was one of the actual. Wasn't lymphocytamine. It wasn't. Well, I'm trying to think which one it was called. Didn't. It was one of the big ones.
Mhm.
So there's a limit to how focused you can become, folks.
Oh
I
yeah.
can tell you that. I can tell you that right now. And then there's a
Yeah.
point there you break. It will break, and you'll get loopy. Now right. Now I will confess that one of the things we like when you tried it, I was only for like a week, so I got
Mhm.
off it when we realized what was happening. You're only supposed to take this one for like 2 days a week, not daily. And I learned why you don't take it daily because
Yeah.
that I could not rest. My brain was going so it was just
Yeah.
my dad looked at that and said, "Give me that." Looked at oh no, we 2 week. That's
Yeah.
there, yeah, right. But again, that's the thing is when you go down this path, you do try stuff, and
Mhm.
yeah. So there are limits. There are limits to
Yeah.
all this stuff, and it's you can do a lot. Like it's amazing what you can do if you know what you're doing. Um, I didn't get it. I haven't because of my storage locker situation. I didn't get it. I was hoping to do this. I have a book you would love. It's about honey, vinegar, and garlic. It is a cookbook of health recipes just using those three things as the key parts of the ingredients. It's actually made from doctors. It came out in like the early 90s. It's a
Yeah.
really cool book. And it's like you can do a lot of cool stuff with nutrition and health.
Yeah.
But there's no such thing as a magic bullet. Now,
No. No, and it takes work. It's
yes, it does.
lifestyle. That's the thing that you can see is absolutely true. That's why you see with people who have, you can see people who are vegetarian and you can see people who are carnivores, and they have great health markers, and it's not because of either one of the diets, it's because these people actually care about their health. That's the that's why you have such confounding things. It's like, yes, these and like this like, well, if people who followed the food pyramid,
Mhm.
they, and all their servings of grains and stuff, they're probably still okay
Yeah.
because they were the type of human being to take health advice. The problem, the reason, the people who do not take the health advice are the ones in trouble. That's what's so fascinating about it is that you have these people, you see the statistics about health and obesity and heart disease and all and metabolic syndrome and all that. And then you have to realize when you're not part of those numbers that maybe if 60% of the population's overweight, you might be in the 40% that's not. And because there are still like it's just really fascinating how you see people who have such like the wellness industry is like, pushing these statistics on people who are already in the 40% that are doing the right thing.
Well, it's also
It's
it's
completely
also
warped.
it's also just like there's so many factors in a diet too. Like for
Yeah.
example, what did your parents eat? Whether people realize that's a big
Mhm.
part of your diet. That's a big part of your diet, and that's why even the genetic thing can be tricky too, because it may not be what you think it is, right? Right. There's how the food's prepped today versus food's prep. There's so many
Mhm.
like little details,
Yeah.
and you look in a diet and being health conscious. Like, okay, I walk everywhere. I'm always exercising, right? I can tell you that
Yeah.
straight up, right? That's a big factor too.
Yeah.
Right. It's not. Now that all said, I am planning on hitting a gym, and I waited till March. The reason
Mhm.
why I waited till March is because I realized every motherfucker that wants to go,
Everyone's
I'm
joining
gonna get
in January.
yeah, no, I didn't want to go through it in January. And I
No.
figure if I wait till March, right, it'll be only the people that are serious. Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. Don't even get me random Rick review.
Yeah.
Don't get us started. Like all the stuff. Like we said this earlier. At this particular point in time, um, at this particular point in time, if the government told me the sky was blue, I'd be looking outside and making
Yep.
sure anything you see, you should be questioning hard. It's like,
Mhm.
why are you telling me this? Right? You should at least be asking that question. And if you're not after all these years, I don't know what to tell you.
There is there's a book called The Big Fat Surprise. It's by this journalist, Nina Teicholz, who like reading that like is just fascinating because it does show you about like the demonization of fat. That's what it's
Yeah,
all about and how incorrect that was. And but what she gets into is why it happened. And
yeah,
like things like so much of the campaign against saturated fat was driven by the American Soybean Association because
yeah,
these coconut oil manufacturers from the Philippines were cutting into their profits. So
yeah.
coconut oil has a high percentage of saturated fat. So like and when you read this book, you kind of because you see all the like you learn about all the stuff behind the scenes and why it happened, then you think like, okay, well, what's the motivation behind this? Like I am still convinced and no one I it's going to be very hard to convince me otherwise that the whole vegan for the environment movement from right before COVID was not financed by the people who make impossible meats.
No, and
Like,
also if you look at, and I have a friend who just turned vegan. I didn't have the heart to tell her. Like I just didn't. If you look at the process of what goes into making vegan food,
oh, it's disgusting.
oh no, it is yikes. Like
Yeah.
I'd rather like people say what they want about people hunting. That is so far more humane than what. Oh God, it was just like I looked at that's like I'm cursed with knowing too much on some of these things. Like,
Yeah.
is that like right? And it's just like, would you recommend certain lifestyles? No,
No.
I wouldn't. But I'm also at that point in my life, old and wise and stuff like that, to realize that people are going to do what they want to do,
Yep. And they'll
right?
learn, hopefully.
Well, here's the thing. Like I had this. So this is ironically, because we're gonna have to get going soon. This is where actually an appropriate way to wrap this up. I realized one of the biggest lessons I learned about loving people, like in general, is if you truly love somebody, you have to let them be themselves. You have to give them the freedom to be who they are. And even if you disagree with them fundamentally with some of the things they've chosen to do with their lives, right? It's that you have to give them the space and the grace to like have that faith that they're going to discover their own answers on their own eventually. I mean, that's one of the hardest lessons I've ever learned about love, but I find it's one of the best because it's like you never push somebody. You don't necessarily push somebody away. What you're doing is you're giving them that space to do what they want, and you give it to them, and it's a gift. I don't think people realize it sometimes in that moment, but that's the best thing you can do with somebody. Get them, figure it out, have that faith in them.
Yeah, let them figure it out themselves and just be
Yes.
patient. Yep, I agree.
I gotta say, like I said, I'm glad I met you. I'm gonna say I'm gonna say it like this because this is the last time you're gonna be on the show in this capacity, in all likelihood. However, I will say this: if you want to come draw with me before this wraps up, I will find a way to get you done before it's all said and done. Right? So that's the invitation for you. If you ever decide you want to do it, we'd have to go longer than this. But I mean, if you're willing, but if you do have that time,
it's like a zone out day of just here's fun drawing time.
Yeah, if you give enough. Okay, so this show will be in existence in this concept until June, right? Now it won't be very long in June, right? But in June, then once June hits, once I break 1,000 something, I'm just gonna go. Nope, I'm going on a hiatus until I'm ready. I'm on the road, right? So, and you'll see road shows here and there. Yeah, right. But until then, if you decide between now and then, I'll give you this invite. Between now and then, you say, Josh, I want to draw stupid shit for like an hour. I want to show how awesome I am this way. You are more than welcome to do that. But I did want to say this. You're an incredibly sharp woman. All right. You're an incredibly sharp woman. It has been a pleasure to get to know you in the brief little times I've gotten to know you and chat with you. And I honestly, I can't wait to read some of your books. You're a very wonderful person and I'm rooting for you.
Thank you so much. And I'm excited I've really enjoyed talking to you on these. We have really cool conversations and I'm excited to meet under the bridge for ice cream.
Yes. So so which one do you want to promote?
Oh, my books?
Yeah, we got to wrap this up with a proper promotion.
Influence is gonna come up next. So this one has it's some stuff that's already been published in various other formats. So number one is The Sky is Full of Snake Wolves. That is from the Blood Bank Charity Anthology. And that's a short story. That one is probably, I would say, the creepiest, scariest thing that I've ever written. Then we have Get Me Out of This Shimmering Oasis, which is a short story told all in Instagram posts that I published on through Godless. 2021? Yeah, 2021. The next one is the Shoebox Challenge, which is it's a weird way of writing. I don't know. I wrote it as a blog post. I don't really even know how to describe it. It's kind of like third person detached. And it was originally published on the Bloodbound Books website as part of their free content. And then I have Exercise Me, which is told as a podcast transcript about an interview with the inventor of AI-powered home exorcism kits. And that I released on Godless in October of 2022. Then we have The People Around You, which was it's kind of more like a splatterpunk short story that I wrote for the Bloodbound Banks Welcome to the Splatter Club anthology. I think it's the second installment of that. And then I have a novelette called Karen, which is the fourth installment of the first season of the Call Me Hoop series. It's available. I don't even know where my book is. It's in the Call Me Hoop book, which is a collection of stories that all are intertwined. They're like the same umbrella. There's the same like larger story arc that's going on in this, and it's just like different contributions from different authors. So that one's in here. And then the last thing is a sneak peek of first chapter of my novel, The Girl with the Lollipop Eyes, which is not horror at all. It is like it's funny. It's, my publisher's referring to it as slacker noir. That should be coming at some point later in 2023 from Bloodbound Books. So that's what's in Influence. It's pretty cool. I'm excited about it. I'm excited, especially for people to meet Thor Cole, my eccentric private investigator that will hopefully be part of a series of books, starting with The Girl with the Lollipop Eyes.
Hard boiled or soft boiled? You're detective.
You're just gonna have to read it.
Okay,
he's kind of his own. He's his own thing. It's not necessarily. It's its own thing. He's an old punk rocker in my neighborhood who was a bouncer for years and has gone into the PI business. So take that for what you will.
He sounds like he sounds like someone that I would have a beer with, and while he's getting shot at, he'd be like,
he's
hey.
Based on several of my friends. Like,
yes. And for anybody, because I've done this before with Lucy, this is her website. You should go check it out right now, LucyLeitner.com. Right, like I said, get an insight. We got a little bit of insight there. And I'm going to wrap things up with this. For everybody watching, listening, I do advertising services. I make video, audio. I make assets, essentially. Video, audio, words, and pictures for you to use. However you want to use them for your projects or for yourselves, you can definitely check out the link right there in the description below. And folks, it will do it for today. I have a really fun drink and draw coming from across the pond on Friday. So I will definitely be doing that. So for everybody watching, everybody listening, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Stay inspired, keep shining in the dark, and I'll see you next time.